Hey, what's up, guys? It's the League Dad, and I'm coming at you with another episode of the All In Podcast, a podcast for casual leaguers. Today, we have a post MSI recap segment where we're going to talk about all the action that happened. If you haven't seen any of the VODs or highlights yet, I will warn you that there will be spoilers here. So if you haven't done so and don't want to be spoiled, you should go watch that before listening to the episode. But after you do watch it, come on back. Today, I'm joined by Kevin Shi. You guys know him. Style on him. He's here again. And we have a new co-host today. His first time hosting is Miracle. And you know, the tradition here on the show is that whenever we have a first time co-host on here, we always like to hear a little bit about them, how they got started with League, who their favorite champs are, and kind of like where they're at now with their climb or with the game in general. So Miracle, if you could just take a couple minutes, introduce yourself to the listeners, let us know how you got into League and all that good stuff.
Hello guys, so I'm Miracle. I'm from Poland. I'm 30, so I'm old.
Hey, me too, yes.
I started playing around season 1, season 2, and I've been playing since then with some breaks in between.
Nice.
I peaked at Diamond 1 in season 4 as a mid laner, and then I kept switching roles over and over. And
Gotcha.
Right now I'm sticking to mostly AD carry and mid lane. Mostly
Nice.
playing Ezreal and abusing Zed when he's good at low elo.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So Ezreal and Zed are your champs of choice. Okay, would you say one of those are your favorite champs of all time, or who would be your most favorite champ of all these seasons playing?
I have this, typical mental deficit of playing only difficult champions. So like Zed, Yasuo, Lee Sin, Ezreal.
Gotcha.
All this stuff that you should not play if you're not like Diamond. So these are basically my things.
Gotcha. Hey, well, you know what? That makes the game interesting, and fun. I have to stick to simple champions, but I have tried Lee Sin a few times now, and I gotta say, even though I fail all the time, it is super fun. So, whatever. Play what you like. Play what makes it fun. But yeah. So good to have you on the show, man. We're glad to have you here. And hopefully there's many shows to come. But we're gonna jump right into it, man. MSI 2019 is in the books. It's a wrap. And G2 is your winner. Unfortunately, the only bad thing, so I'm not salty that NA lost. Maybe I am a little bit, and I'm prepared. I will own up to our region's failures, but I will say that I am disappointed that it was so fast because I wanted to see more action.
What is it, 1 hour, 10 minutes?
Yeah, I would have been okay, if we lost, but it was a little longer or whatever, but it was just so fast. And then game 3 was just such a stomp that it was just unbelievable. So let me hear your first impressions on just that series, because that's the finals. What were your overall thoughts about it, and the results of everything? So let's start with the champs. We'll start with the EU region. Style, give us your thoughts on that, man.
Okay, I also think I don't think it was the fact that the games, it was a 3-0. I'm okay with it being a 3-0. But the fact that not even one of the games was even close to competitive.
Yeah.
Was really bad. Even as an EU fan, you're even if your team wins, you don't want them to win so fast because you want to see.
You want to savor it. That's what you were trying to do, right? Okay.
Yeah, but if you see G2's comps, you'll never see a game lasting longer than say 35 minutes. I mean, I would say 18 minutes is a bit really fast, but if you pick things like Pike, you're never gonna get a slow game. And I think that's one of the reasons that TL lost. One of the big reasons, and one of the reasons why they could be IG, and I don't think G2 would have been able to be IG. I think the reason TL was able to be IG is because they don't play as fast paced as G2 does, and if teams can stall against G2, they usually end up winning.
Gotcha. That seems to be their weak point. Okay. What about you, Kevin? Let's bounce to the NA perspective. Overall thoughts.
So overall thoughts for the finals, I thought that it was a really big disappointment. I mean, as a lifelong Team Liquid fan, it kind of sucks. But other than that, what really disappointed me more than that was not that it was a 3-0, which was sucky. I have to agree that it just felt like Team Liquid didn't show up on the server. 2 days before, they looked like an incredible team. Everyone was firing on all cylinders. And then we went to the finals, and double core JJ went 1-23 in bot lane.
Oof, yeah.
If you could get reported for that in ranked if you did that in a game or two. Or I guess 3 games for way less, right?
Yeah. All right.
So like it was just really disappointing. I just wanted to be competitive, even if it was a 3-0. I wanted there to be fight in it, but it just looked like we made a blood pact with something, and we won the match against IG. And
do you think part of that was mental, like, well, and in 2 ways, like, do you think for Team Liquid, like they were like, we beat IG, that to them was their championship, and maybe mentally they laxed off, saying, well, shoot, we beat freaking Kings of the Jungle here, the champions, right? And 2, is it that they got stomped so bad, or seemed like G2 was just everywhere and swarming them? Do you think that mentally defeated them?
So sorry, do you go ahead first?
You can go first.
Okay, so I don't like to use the mental excuse because I don't want to discount how G2 won, because they did win and they deserve to win. I would say that this is kind of like the age-old meme that, you're like, I didn't think I would get this far, is what I think Team Liquid went through. If you look at how they prepped for IG, they had amazing ward coverage. They knew exactly when Ning would be counter ganking bot or looking for like a lane gank bot, which no other team was able to consistently ward for.
Yeah.
And they had all these like super weird unorthodox word timings and counter gank timings and comps ready. And I don't think they thought they were going to win that set. I don't think they expected to play against G2 in the finals. So I think their prep was way worse for the finals. Like they regressed to a lot of worse habits. But even more than all of that, like I think that first of all, they didn't think they would get that far. I don't think they thought G2 would beat SKT. So they prepped even worse for that, because they only had 2 days after they won.
Sure.
But even worse is I think Double didn't show up to the server. I think everyone else, to some extent, at least showed some signs of life. And I think Double literally was getting like solo killed by like Mickey or Mickey and Perks. But like Mickey was like literally just walking up slowly. Like the camera would pan away, we would go back and they'd be dead again. And I'd be like, oh my goodness. And that, I mean, Doubles has underperformed before, but never this poorly at an international event. So it was rough.
Okay. What about you, Style? Mental?
Okay, so I would say I would say it's like completely the opposite. I would say that the reason they did so poorly is they just underestimated G2, because if you beat a team that went 9-1 in groups, you're gonna feel pretty good about yourself, aren't you? And I think one of the things they didn't prepare for was like, I do think they were underprepared, because G2 picked the same thing against TL that they did against SKT. They picked Pike top, and they picked the same style of play, really fast play. So I don't know why G2 couldn't like understand how they were playing. Yeah. That's one of like the main things that I hated. And they had more time to prepare than G2 did, because G2 literally played the day before. So I wouldn't say that was a problem. And I would say it wasn't just double lift. Like, I literally think game 1 was lost from Core JJ walking up just to hit a Tom Kench Q. What are you going to do with a Tom Kench Q?
That's true. That he just queued it when 3 people were coming at him, and then he lost Flash.
He lost Flash, and then they just... I'm pretty... Like, this might be like a disagreeable opinion, but I think they just lost off that one play.
Okay.
No, I agree.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to you, Miracle. What are your overall thoughts here about this series? Disappointed like the rest of us, or how did you feel about it?
Oh, I gotta say, I was kind of happy to see it, just for the Reddit memes.
Yes.
Live for the memes.
Yeah.
And I think 2 biggest surprises for me from the final were TL bot lane, which went absolutely garbage series from them. I mean, double lift, going back to his old habits, overextending, dying for no reason.
Oh gosh,
especially
yes.
in the last games. Core JJ also underperforming, completely different player from the series versus IG.
Yep.
And the other surprise for me was Jensen, but in a good way.
Because
if we go back to last time he played Caps at Worlds last year, Caps absolutely destroyed him, even though Jensen was on Lissandra duty for 3 games in a row, right?
Yeah.
In this series, we saw Akali, he tried to do something, he tried to carry, he tried to fight Caps directly 1v1. No more Lissandra for him.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good thing for TL going forward, that Jensen has, the confidence to do it against Caps.
Yeah,
which is a
I agree.
nice change of pace from last year.
Yeah,
but overall,
and
I think, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, obviously, I'm sad that my region won. I do think, when we talk about mental aspect, it more so I feel like than like typical games. I'm sure, of course there's mental aspects in all games, but when you're playing like a game like this, right, where most of the game is mental plus mechanics, it's not a lot of times like, being, physically ready. You do to some extent, but I can imagine just the amount of like pressure. And we talk about preparation time. So Style, we were talking about that. I also think let's go back to that a little bit, because they did get to prepare a few days for IG, and both Team Liquid and G2 didn't have that much time to prepare for each other, right? And so at that point, I feel like for me that might have been a big reason as well, is that they did spend a lot of time in preparation for IG, and had a game plan against it. Obviously, there were some missteps from IG on their part, but when they played against G2, it's like what you were saying. It's like they did not know. It's like they didn't prep. And I'm just wondering, like, what was going on, in their mindset when they found out they're playing, G2. What do you think Team Liquid could have done better, maybe to prepare?
I don't think
they
could have done anything, to be honest.
Do you think that
I think there's too much difference between individual players in certain
skill level,
positions, right, that is not really, doable. And I think the IG series was mostly IG killing themselves on Team Liquid. Because if you think about how G2 plays and how IG plays, they kind of have sort of similar style, with G2 having more diverse champion pools maybe. But the way G2 snowballs is much more consistent. They don't do as many mistakes for no reason when they have a lead, right? So when Impact catches IG with Nico roots, right, they all die and Team Liquid turns around the game, right?
That's
and
true.
Doesn't happen against G2. G2 doesn't give you the possibility to turn the game around, because they just roll over you.
Yeah. Good point.
I don't know if I agree with that, though. I think that G2 showed very consistently that they actually do have inconsistencies with ending games or snowballing games. I mean, the group stages, literally they went 5-5. Of which one of the games was a stomp to Liquid. The other games were super scrappy games against Funwu Buffalo, where they might have had a lead at times, and then Funwu would just fight their way back. So, if anything, I don't think that's necessarily true about G2 as a whole. I think that their playoffs performance showed more of that like propensity that Miracle was talking about, and I agree in the sense of, in the scope of those 3 matches, especially, they showed super cleanliness. Like, I mean, it's hard to look terrible in a 3-0.
Sure. Yeah.
However, what I think Liquid could have done going in, and I remember I watched Steve, Liquid 112, the owner of Team Liquid. He was on Listen Local yesterday or 2 days ago, and he was talking about how the team was feeling. And something he mentioned, and I'm not quoting him because I can't remember the quote, but he kind of mentioned that like the team just kind of missed the mark that day. They just weren't like, they didn't, I feel like they may have checked out or something. Like that's the impression he got. Like I'm paraphrasing, but
sure.
Obviously like G2 was the better team on the day, but we showed in the group stage that like there was 2 stomps, one way for G2 and one way for Liquid. And I don't think you can make the statement that Liquid was just outclassed in every lane, so there's no way they could have beaten G2. Like there's nothing different they could have done when you literally watch them do that
IG.
Same thing to IG, which everyone here, even to this day, will agree that like IG still outclasses Liquid in every lane except maybe support, but that's still very sketchy to say.
Yeah.
So I think it was Liquid's game plan wasn't solid enough. Their mentality broke down somehow. It's hard for anyone who's watched Liquid at this tournament and watched G2 at this tournament to watch that best of 3 and not think that there was at least some kind of mental breakdown after the first game. Because like it just didn't make any sense.
Collapse.
Like
mental.
What I will give credit to is G2's mental was a lot better. Like their first game against SKT, holy moly! I've never seen such an awful. No, actually, I have. I saw SKT do worse on a Terek. It was pretty bad. Like I was like watching Perks die level 1 to an Ezreal by holding his flash as stun. Like, and then they rolled back though. They came back while Liquid couldn't show that mental fortitude, which I actually expected they would have had. I did not expect them. I expected them to put up a fight in game 2 or 3, and it didn't happen. So maybe they just thought this was good enough. Like we made it to the finals. Like this is more than we ever expected. So we no longer have that fire underneath us. Or maybe they got overconfident. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if they were like, they beat the world champs, right? So maybe they kind of relaxed a little bit.
I think overconfident is more plausible.
Yeah,
you think so?
I think that if I had to guess, that might be more plausible with that many superstar players, but it's hard to say.
I mean,
I don't know. Like when you before the game against TL, Wunder said that we win 90% of the
fastest,
games against Liquid, right?
Yeah.
We are so confident that we don't really care that we're playing them, right? And you could kind of see this in the game, even, right?
Yeah.
They were super confident against the Liquid.
Oh no, I mean I think G2 played really well and they just played super confident. But TSM said the same thing. Like we win all our scrims against Liquid.
That's what it says.
Like the point is that scrims are not the same as playoff matches, and I think that if you look at the matches, G2 played to their I don't think to their potential, to their peak or anything. They just played really well, but Liquid didn't play. That's the problem here. So,
at all. Yeah.
Like if one team isn't showing up, like you can look like a god any day of the week. And like what I'm trying to figure out through like this discussion is like why did they show up or what was the factors? Like I think if we're just talking about on paper, I do think Liquid is a worse team than G2 at this point, but their strengths were in different places. The bot lane should not have been the place they lost the hardest in.
Yeah.
Bot lane was 1 in 23.
But was that on purpose though? I mean, was that part of G2's plan? I mean, to kind
target
of
bot lane?
Yeah.
Probably. I think that there's probably some amount of focus bot lane because they figured that once they pulled out the Swain pick, which Steve said really threw them off in game 1, they're like, okay, the Swain will handle it and scale alongside GP. We'll just focus bot. But there's no way they could have planned for Core JJ sitting in a bush trying to queue one person out of 3 as they're walking toward him at level 1.
Yeah.
So
nice.
I think that they were gifted.
Wasn't the Swain pick game 2 though?
Swain was game 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was definitely game 1 because GP was game 1. So I remember Swain being picked into it, and I was like, oh god.
But what would you have said? What would you have said if you were I mean obviously it's 2020 vision, but what would you have said to TL like to try to
I don't agree that like TL is a worse team. I think that their bot lane is like on paper better than G2's bot lane. I think Doublelift is world class. I think no matter what happened in the final, Doublelift is world class and he'll always be world class. And I think he didn't expect Mickey X to be that good. Like, if I had to pick an MVP, I don't know who you guys would pick, but I would definitely pick Mickey X. Like, he had so many clutch engages. That thresh hook he landed on Doublelift, where he blew his flash and then they got kills off it, that was like him showing up in that game. There was his flash engage on Rakan, where he flashed over chickens and landed a double knockup.
Yeah.
And there were just so many different engages where he just showed up. And this is a guy who's pretty much a rookie, right? He wasn't on a big team last year, and now he's playing on one of the biggest teams in Europe.
Yeah.
I think
last year?
he was on. Wasn't he on an EU team?
Yeah, Spice is an EU team.
Yeah. Yeah, but before that, he wasn't on a huge. He wasn't on a huge team, right? Like, he's not got as much experience as compared to like Core JJ.
Oh yeah, that's compared to Core JJ for sure.
I think he was in Misfits, right, last year.
Oh yeah, no, he was on Misfits and then he was on Splice and then Misfits. I'm pretty sure he's actually pretty experienced because that's a pretty storied rosters he's been on. He was the Mickey X Kabi bot lane and then Hansama Mickey X for all of Misfits, like Super Coast Worlds run. Or no, that was Ignar. It was after Ignar left. Yeah. So 2018 he was on Misfits.
Yeah. I don't think he ever went to Worlds though, did he?
No,
I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
He didn't go to Worlds. The year he got to finals, but he didn't get to Worlds.
Yeah. So
I think you could still say that Core JJ is definitely more seasoned on the international stage. Yeah. So So I get the point that you're making. Yeah. Go ahead, Sal.
Yeah. So I think that was like one of the problems. The main problem was bot lane not showing up. And you've got like 2 world champions and Doublelift on the same team, and you're like, how do you lose this? Like, okay, maybe Jankos is better than Xmithy, but even Xmithy has way more experience than Jankos.
Yeah.
And I think I think the only place where they should have been losing is mid lane, because Caps is actually like disgustingly good. Like, he's insane at this game. Like, it's not even just how he does in lane. Like, if you saw the Akali game he played, like, you see how far he walks up, right? And he just baits everyone towards you, and he manages to survive.
Yeah.
And it's not just in the. I think he was good in the finals, but I think he was even better in the semis.
Yeah,
I would agree. He was better in the semis. I don't think he was I don't think he was the second most impactful player in the finals. I think he was like the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's do this then. Since we were talking, you kind of alluded to it for EU anyways, but even though Team Liquid lost, who would you say, and this is going to be tough because they did terrible, but who do you think was their best player? Who would you say the MVP was for Team Liquid, at least, as bad as the situation was? And I'll start with you.
Or MSI?
No, let's just talk about the finals. Just the finals, even though I know that might be hard to do because they played so bad. But
for me, it's pretty easy.
Who is it for you?
Yeah, for me,
Jensen.
it's Jensen. Okay. Jensen by far. Either
Kevin,
Jensen or Impact, actually.
Yeah,
Impact
I was going to throw in a nod to Impact.
He played really well in the Pike game when he was playing Kennen. He had like a sizable lead, and he landed a really good flank when they actually got a few kills back.
Yeah.
So I would say he did decently. But I'll still give it to Jensen, because not only did he like match Caps, it's Caps, and if you're matching Caps, you're doing something right.
Yep. Okay. Kevin, do you agree?
I would give him a second. I think that it's Impact, and it's not even close, because for me, it's like, I think Jensen has shown up at a world stage. Like, he's on semifinals. He like destroyed Kuro last year. Like, he's been on form recently. Impact, there was like no expectations coming. And before this show, when we did our preview show, we were talking about Wonder as maybe one of the best players in the West, like going into the tournament.
Sure.
And I think Caps is also up there. I think Caps' skill ceiling is higher than Wonder's, but I think that Caps also like was really exposed through all the group stage and some of the games. Like, you know, the meme, like the craps and the claps. Like, through the semifinals, like every other game, he was not showing up. And then like that's only 2 of the games. So for 3 of the games, he showed up hugely. And Jensen did decent, but he didn't have a lot of pressure. Impact had a 2,000 gold lead over Wonder on Wonder's counter pick Pike into his cannon. He had a $2,000 gold lead that he was bringing into bot lane and making like huge plays. Like, this man was popping off with almost no jungle pressure on him. From his ally, because Xmithy was not doing amazing. He would say game 1 he didn't do great, and the other 2 games he did okay. So like, I think Impact was doing like the meme. I guess he was having a lot of impact against a much more consistent player in Wonder. For me, Caps can't be the best player as long as you have craps games every 30% of the time or 25% of the time. Like, I cannot overlook it. I can like say
you're saying what you're saying is that yes, Caps has had some plays where you're just like, that is freaking unbelievable. Like, nobody else could do that. But you're saying consistently you think Wonder has proven to be more dominant? Is that what you're trying to say?
I would say that Wonder is just the better player, because to me, as a good player, you need to have the package. You need to be consistent. You need to have high peaks. You need to have pressure. You need to be like able to team fight, all that stuff. I think Caps isn't just about the flashy plays, though. I think Caps is about like what Styles was saying. He puts pressure in. He's like dragging 3 people to the lane and then just like barely avoiding it. My problem is that I just can't expect, like, I don't think it's that if Jensen's like solo kills Caps like in the last game of group stages, like, it doesn't mean as much to me, because like that's just a Caps thing to do. He'll be pushing his limits even on a stage game or like on a big game, and so it's easier to punish mistakes there. So if Jensen's looking okay in that matchup, it's also might be a factor because Jensen has to sponge, like Jensen's a good enough player to at least sponge that kind of player. Caps is the kind of player who will destroy, eviscerate worse mid laners, like people who are a tier below him. And I think Jensen's only like a half or three quarters tier below him.
Okay.
So to me, like, it just has to be Impact. He played so well with 0 help. Like, Jensen was still having 3 people in mid lane trying to babysit him. So and not babysit him, but like to match
Right.
the three people from G2.
You're saying he had assistance. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. Like, I mean, I don't know. For me, I really don't know. But those two players for sure are the standouts. I think for Team Liquid in a crappy scenario. You know, they did what they could. All right, let's flip it around. Who's the worst player on Team Liquid for? This might be a little easier. Who was the worst? Like
Miracle, you should go first.
Miracle. Who do you think the worst player was on Team Liquid?
So the easy way out would be to say double lift, but I don't think it would be fair to him, actually. I mean, some of the things that he did were completely, pointless, straight up inting.
Mhm.
But I think ultimately the bot lane failure of Team Liquid comes down to jungle matchup and how heavily outjungled Xmithy was. And I think Xmithy was actually the worst player of Team Liquid in the series.
Interesting.
Because the Jankos pathing compared to Xmithy was much better. Constant focus on the bot lane, which you could assume from, for example, the picks in the first game, right? You have Swain and GP. You don't need jungle attention there for Swain, right?
Yeah.
You have an even matchup in mid lane. It was Morgana versus Ori, right? So nothing's going on in there. So it's obvious that attention is going to be on bot lane when you have Xayah Rakan, right? And still, Xmithy does nothing with this information. Jankos is allowed to do whatever he wants in the bot lane, snowballs Xayah, and they just run with the game.
Okay, that's actually a pretty good insight there. Do you guys agree? Let's go to you, Style. Who's your worst player on Team Liquid?
I mean, I agree with like the points you said, but I don't agree that he was the worst player. I would say Core JJ was the worst player. Okay. I wouldn't even say Double Lift is the worst player. I think
from best to worst, Core JJ.
Yeah, like one of the reasons I would say Core JJ was the worst player is because everyone had so many high expectations of him, and he just played really bad. Like you wouldn't expect a world champion to make a play like losing your flash for a tongue lash. You wouldn't expect things like that, and I just think he had like no pressure.
Yeah, like, and I guess
no pressure as a support.
And I guess that, that plays a factor too, the expectation of you compared to where you met those expectations. That makes it much worse, right? Because you said Xmithy, nobody's really expecting him to be made. He is a great jungler, but, and he may have underperformed, but I think the disparity between expectation and reality was smaller with Xmithy compared to someone like Core JJ, who was the MVP, right? And so from him going to that to being like this, showing this terrible performance is pretty big gap in the expectation. Okay.
I actually think it was very disappointing that Rakan wasn't a contested pick for Team Liquid. I mean, Core JJ has world champion skin on Rakan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why are we banning Rakan? So we have to deny it from Mickey. Like, why is Core JJ not playing Rakan as a playmaking support? Right?
Yeah.
What's going on there?
It's true.
I think one of the reasons they didn't pick Rakan is because they haven't played Rakan the whole split. I don't think they've even tried it out, because EU meta and NA meta is completely different when it comes to professional play. You'd never see Rakan and Xayah in NA. Like, you didn't see it. I don't think we saw a single game of Rakan or Xayah.
I think we saw one,
maybe one. I didn't watch all of NALCS, but I know. I didn't. I'm assuming there weren't many games. There may have been like a few.
Very few, yeah.
But
it was just Tom Kench, Alistar, and Braum every game.
Yeah. I saw a lot of Tom Kench, a lot of Varus, a lot of Ezreal.
Sure. Yeah.
But if you watch EU, on the other hand, you see things like Rakan Xayah, you see things like Draven, like you see things like Kalista. But in NA, it's completely different. So I don't think you can say something like, why didn't they contest Rakan? Because I don't think they were used to the pick, right?
That's
and
probably,
you want to stay with comfort. And I think what they needed to do is, I think another reason why Core JJ looks so bad was because Mickey X looks so good.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so that was one of the things. If you compare like one support to another, then you're gonna see Mickey X on one hand, and you're gonna see Core JJ on the other.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin.
I would say that I also agree with. I would agree a bit more with Miracle's points, like in general about Smithy. I think Smithy was the second worst. I still think it's double. It has to be double because if you've ever played support before, except for that one awful play where he tongue lashed at level 1, I think Core played what he had to. You see that. Okay, so first of all, the reason why they didn't pick Rakan was they played against arguably the world's best Rakan. Maybe it's Mickey, who knows, but they played against the world's best Rakan 2 days before, and they actually countered it with their Alistar picks and their Braum picks and their Tom, like the picks that they've been spamming all tournament long. They were able to handle it. So they probably didn't think it would be a big deal from Perks and Mickey X. You see that Double was like getting hooked on like as Ashe. He picked Ashe, and then he just gets hooked on with flash up from max range, and he doesn't juke it. He doesn't flash it. He gets EQ'd by Flag and Dragon in game 1 against Yankos' Jarvan. He doesn't flash it either, even though he sees the flag drop down. It wasn't like a flash flag. It was just a regular EQ. Then he would take the knockup. Then he would flash at 100 health, leaving Core to be like, well, I have a 100 health 80 carry, and I'm sitting as Tom Kench. I mean, what do you want from me? Like, if you've ever, like, if you're like a support main and you're like a higher rank than your friend and you're duoing with them, if they like really try their best to make your life hard, it's hard to look good. And that's like how I felt about that game. He didn't miss the EQ. He got solo killed in game 3. He got solo killed again in game 3. He got like, I have to imagine that Double F decides his picks. I'm almost certain, based on the history of comms and watching like Liquid's squad series, that it's usually him like, give me Varus, I can carry this. And you saw this series, he went Kai'Sa, Varus, and Ashe. 2 of the 3 picks are like picks that he's pretty known for this split. And then the Ashe pick had to be him calling it. Like, who else is going to convince Double to pick Ashe into Rek'Sai? And so the fact that he can't even dodge a hook at that level with no pressure on him, like literally is just weaved between 2 minions, is like, I mean, Mickey did really well, but like Double's also doing really garbage. Like, what are you going to do as a Braum there? You basically, the reason why Core had to die so many times was for Double's sins. It was just like playoffs again. We had this conversation in playoffs like a month ago, and Double regressed in the series. So like all the pressure is just gone. They don't have a late game insurance, and that's usually Team Liquid's win con.
You're just saying that Double F went back to being himself on the international stage.
What is it? How many
Forget the flash, right? Forget the flash.
I think Double's still a world-class player. I just really don't understand his inability to flash, which loses some of the world-classness, but like in high-pressure situations, historically, he really doesn't flash for some reason. He always tries to outplay or push his limits.
Well, think about this like, though too. Okay, so this is an interesting kind of topic here, talking about Double F, right? Because we talk about world class player, and even in other sports, in a lot of sports there are players who are Hall of Famers or really good players, but for some reason they can't win. They just when it comes to the playoffs, when it comes to the finals, there are people who are known, and and it's vice versa too. Players who are not superstars, right? But who, when it comes to playoff time or finals time, like for some reason they turn on another level, and they're known for being clutch, right? They have that clutch factor. Would you say Double Lift might be one of those players who will always be known for being a world-class player, a top, ADC for so long, which is already hard to do, but is he a player that can't be clutch?
I think he is a bit too stubborn to actually prove himself. And it sort of comes down to what we were talking about with Rakan and Xayah Rakan. So when you look at picks at MSI across regions, what AD carries are people playing. So EU plays Xayah Rakan, they play Draven, they play all this weird stuff. Korea plays a lot of stuff like Kalista. Teddy has Kalista permaban against him. IG plays Xayah Rakan. And then we have Double playing Varus, Kai'Sa, and Lucian, and I think Ezreal. And none of these picks is really that contested. And Xayah Rakan has almost 100% win rate. And Team Liquid lost every game to Xayah Rakan this tournament. 4 games they played against Xayah Rakan, they lost every single game, even against IG in the semis, right? The only game IG won.
The only game that IG won was Xayah Rakan.
Was Xayah Rakan, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think this is one of the things that they are kind of stuck to this meta and the style they want to play. And they're convinced this is the way to play the game. We're gonna play Varus Tankenge, and it's gonna go great, right?
But isn't it though sometimes though like, but if they do something else and they lose and get slammed for it, then it becomes, oh, you're just trying to copy the other teams, right? And so then it becomes like,
not playing your style.
Yeah, not playing your style and not maximizing the way you play the game and have found your strengths. Because let's face it, not everybody's going to be able to play like a G2. Not everybody, because they just can't. They don't have the talent. They don't have the resources to do that. And so it becomes kind of this, well, should we just play our game to the best that we can and hope that it wins? Or should we try to, take time away from this and try to learn and expand our resource pool, and our champion pool and that sort of thing. And so I think that becomes an issue as well. So you could argue for that, but I want to kind of harp on the Doublelift thing because he is a player that's been known for so long. But is he a guy that will never win an international tournament?
So
yes.
My theory of Doublelift is like this. I've followed NA since the beginning, since season 2. Well, so not the beginning, but beginning of when they started doing leagues and stuff. Double is the kind of player who sets a ceiling for himself of what he thinks he can achieve and what's reasonable for him, and he plays to tilt there. There's a reason why for like 5 splits or 6 splits, he just didn't win anything. Like the Doublelift trophy case meme and everything. If you actually remember Doublelift on the old CLG, like he was looking so good with Afro, and then he would hit playoffs and mysteriously he would disappear. Like you just, for some reason, it's not double Afro anymore. It's just sort of Afro and doubles. Like he's there, he's in the lane. And then after he won his first championship, like the man turned on. Like the man started. He has like 6 now. 6 championships. Now, like he doesn't tilt. Like he can go down 2-0 and he does super well there. But then his next ceiling becomes Worlds. It's always been that afterward, right? If he somehow makes it to not Worlds, international in general, he disappears in group stages. Last year he overcame that for the first time ever. Last year in MSI, he played really well. Like he was like probably the best player on Liquid that year, with Ole being MIA for like some of the games. He had to play with Joey. Like, and then you see, like, so he levels up again. And this year he made it to semis. He did really, or finals. He did really well in semis. Like once he broke through his ceiling in his mind, he's like, oh, I can actually do this. I can be a player. So I don't think Doublelift will never win. I just think that he needs to have that first win. And the problem is like the chances of NA having that first win at a World Final or MSI finals, it's still off. But we saw when they were playing in the semifinals, like Double and that team can win a world championship. That might be a hot take, but like I think IG didn't show up in the server. I'm an LPL fan also. So like I don't think IG showed up in the server, but like that Liquid like shut them down. Liquid cut them off and then tilted them. A world championship team that almost got reverse swept by KT, and their mid laner didn't buy items in game 5, and they still won it against KT Rolster's super team. So like I think that Liquid can do it. And I think Double can do it. It's just he needs to break through those ceilings because he always shows those ceilings, and then once he finally gets through it, he never has the problem again.
Okay. Style.
I think. Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Mirko. You go ahead.
I think Double is a bit of a victim of his region for 2 reasons. One reason is that it's gonna be extremely hard for any team to win international event with the very shallow talent pool that they have.
That's not a secret.
Because at this point, if TSM is importing players from Turkish league, right, there is an issue there, right? Because we don't really see, new top laners coming out. We have Viper, right?
Yeah.
And there's not really next generation coming there, right? So this is an issue for Double, right? So what we wait now for Jensen to be resident, so we can import a jungler.
That's right.
I think if at certain point Double went to Korea or China to play there, I think he would be much more successful.
Wow.
And
interesting.
I think another reason why he's a victim of NA is if you play international events for so many years, and year after year you get completely dumpstered in group stage. Like it goes to your head, and your attitude when you go there is different. Because you have different expectations now, because you've been beaten year after year, and you start to doubt yourself, you start to doubt your team. And I think it takes a toll on players like Double Lift or BXN or all these old-time players who have very high ceiling, but they have never really achieved anything on the national stage until this point. We can say with Double Lift playing the finals, right? So I think this might be one of the problems Double has.
That's good. Yeah, it's a really good point. Style, do you have any thoughts on the Double Lift?
I don't really agree with that. I think what makes you a world class player is no matter what happens the tournament before, you can go back to another tournament and play as well as you can.
Play well, yeah.
Because you see, Double Lift lost so many games when he was with COG. He hadn't won anything, and now he's winning, right? He's winning consistently. And if you're saying something like, these losses are getting to his head, they're definitely not, because he's world class.
Right.
Like nothing's gonna change the fact that Double is world class. I think that the team itself needs to stop relying on Double Lift so much. Not even just relying, because I know Double Lift goes into comms and says, "I want this, let me do this." I don't think they should give him that much power. I think not only that's the problem. It's that every team he's been on has done the same thing. And the problem is, if he doesn't get it, and then, because that's why I think TSM didn't do very well with Double Lift, right? Because he couldn't be the star of the team, right? Because if you have someone like Bjergsen on the team, you're not going to be the best player on the team.
Well, then that's the question, though. Then I mean, I don't think any of us are doubting that he's a world class player, but personally, do you think he will win on international?
I think he will.
Okay.
Actually, I wouldn't say maybe win, but I think he can perform really, really well and get to something like semis or finals. Because if you look at the teams, then you see things like Double Lift, like 1v9ing, even against teams like IG. So you know he's capable of it. You knew he's capable of winning. Like, because even teams like, what is it called? Teams like IG and all that. It's not just Double Lift. It's not just a Double Lift show anymore, like it was back then. Now everyone is performing. Like if you watch the IG series, it wasn't just Double Lift 1v9ing every game. It was just everyone playing well. Even Xmindy played well, and I think that's the reason. I do think Double Lift can win. I wouldn't say he will win, but I think he has like the capability to.
Okay. All right. Oh, I want to move. I want to. Let's
respond.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So going back to the losses and impact on mental attitude. So when Double Lift loses in an A, like I don't think he feels like it's his fault, because he's been by far the best ADC player in an A for a very long time. And when he loses games in an A, it's not really his fault, right? Or he doesn't feel it's his fault. But when he goes in a series against G2, and a guy playing ADC for 3 months absolutely dumpsters him, I think this is the impact I'm talking about, like getting destroyed by players like Uzi or Pex or all these other AD carries on global stage, while having no real competition domestically, maybe except Sven now, is the major difference.
I think Double Lift's, and we could talk forever on Double Lift because he's got like a lot. Like it's hard to tell because I feel like this guy will always think he's the best ADC. It doesn't matter what region he's in, right? Like he's still gonna think he can, compete with the best of them, and that's what's gonna give him longevity here. I do want to move on though to because we haven't even talked about the actual champs G2, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about first who you think, and we won't do like a worst performer because they won, right? But let's just do who's your MVP for G2, and I mean obviously they crowned one, but who is your personal favorite and MVP? Let's start with you, Miracle.
So for me, it has to be Jankos. I think Jankos got completely robbed from of the MVP title.
That's fair, yeah.
Because he set up bot lane for success, and he set up Mickey to make plays, and it all came down to Jankos' jungle pressure on bot lane, and how well he managed to snowball them, and also how much he outplayed Xmith in the series.
Okay.
I mean, Caps was impressive. Caps was flashy, but I think Jankos laid the groundwork for the stomp. and obviously the groundwork doesn't really get that much recognition as flashy plays, right?
Exactly. Okay. What about you, Kevin?
Yeah, I agree. It has to be Yankov's. Like,
Okay.
literally, Mickey can't make those plays. He can't go forward if his jungler is like not able to help him out there or give him pressure. All of those plays around the map were because of, well, except for some of the plays on top, but most of the plays around the map were because of Yankov's. He just played exceptional, like the best series I've ever seen him play. This is his first international finals, so
stepped up.
Yeah, it's his first international finals, and he played like Super Saiyan Yankov's. I cannot believe he didn't get MVP. I thought it was hilarious that Caps got it.
Just because he gets that name notice, you know what I mean? People just
I mean, like, he did great, but it's super easy to do great when your jungler is smurfing. Like,
yeah, it's true.
I don't know.
Okay, what about you, Style? Do you agree, or do you actually think it's Caps or somebody else?
I don't think it's Caps. I think it's Mickey. I would still say it's Mickey, not because of all the engages he lands. I agree with what they said about like the engages he lands was because of how much pressure Jankos had. But even if you say like he was coming around bot side, I think he did what Core JJ couldn't. And not only that, if you watch like most of the games, he went mid so many times, and that had nothing to do with like how much pressure Jankos had, right? It's just getting Caps ahead. Because the name of the game in most of these games is get Caps ahead and we'll win the game.
Yeah.
But I think not only did he outperform a lot of people on both teams, it's that he had like the presence of mind to make plays like the flash over chickens is something people wouldn't even try to do.
Sure.
And
to do it in that moment too. Yeah.
So I think he landed like multiple good engages because you can say that in lane it was because Jankos got them ahead, but later on it has nothing. His engages had nothing to do with how well Jankos was playing, because like when they're taking inhib, like when they're taking top inhib and he lands that 2 or 3 man knock up on Rakan, and you're just like, this guy is playing out of his mind this series. So I think overall in the tournament, Caps played the best, but in that series, like Mickey X played the best, or you could even argue that Jankos played the best, but it definitely wasn't Cap.
Wow, so cool. You guys all had people who wasn't the actual MVP, who was Cap. So that's an interesting take, and I think all of those points are well validated. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about here is moving forward, right? Because we've seen our first international, play, and it was very exciting. I think some of it was predictable, some of it wasn't. So now moving into, which is still a while, but going into Worlds, how do you think, the 4 teams, where do they go from here? Do you think IG remains top level and, will definitely make a run for the title? Do you think SKT goes down from here, or are they still going to improve? What are your thoughts on the top 4 teams? Because any of those teams are top level players. So where do you think they go from here? Do you think and how do you think they'll do at Worlds? So let's kind of start with that. Kevin, you want to take the lead on this?
Yeah, I got you. Okay, so for me, this is how it's going to go. I think Liquid's going to go back. They'll need a little bit of time to get back on the patch, but I think Liquid's trajectory is going to go up. Like, they've shown it. They've shown that NA can make it to the finals of an international tournament, like one that matters, not IEM.
Yeah.
I think that, I think they're going to be world class. I think that they've actually unlocked a new style. They can actually play carries now. Both Jensen, Jensen used to be able to play carries, but he can play assassin carries a little bit better now. And Impact actually showed, like, you might need to, like, actually draft around his picks. Like, he's not the greatest Vladimir picker in the world. He's not the greatest Kennen player, but he does an amazing job. He can play him really well. And that's, like, it means that Liquid just unlocks a new style. Like, if they can stop playing toward double, which I think they showed to some extent during this tournament, and like they can just like change around where they play towards in different games, like Liquid can only get stronger from there. So like it's insane. I think it's insanely good for Team Liquid. For G2, I think G2 is going to also power up. I think that as long as Mickey X's wrists survive, Perks is just going to get better. Like Perks, I think was kind of weak at this tournament for the early parts, the first 2/3. But I mean, he did really well against a field of like, it was like double Jackie Love and Teddy.
Yeah.
And he like personally, I think he made Teddy look kind of average
Uh-huh.
for a lot of the games. For SKT, I'm worried for SKT. I don't think, unless SKT changes out Khan during the offseason, I don't think SKT is actually like, they are still the best team in Korea, so they'll probably get first or second. They'll qualify on points if they don't win the split. But SKT just look mortal. Like, Baker's still great. Kud is a great player. Mata is Teddy's decent. And then Khan is like,
I don't.
Literally every top laner was taking turns beating up Khan, and I was just like, "What is this?" I don't think Khan fits on the team. I don't think Khan's a bad player. So if they don't move, like if in the next 3 weeks or 2 weeks of off season they don't move Khan, or at least like get a sub so that he doesn't always have to play as the first player, because like SKT is pretty good at switching out players. If they don't do that, then I don't have a lot of expectations for SKT. I think that either Kingzone not Kingzone. Who got
Griffin?
Well, Griffin for sure, but Kingzone's gonna look better, and I think KT might be a contender again because they just got Prey like yesterday.
Yeah.
So like they have.
Oh, is Prey back?
Yeah,
he's out of retirement, man.
Yeah, he literally left his 1 month retirement to join KT because Korea's losing so badly. Like, it's bad when a guy leaves retirement after watching.
Dude, he maybe watched MSI and was like, he was probably like,
what do you mean? That's exactly what
the timing was literally 2 days after MSI.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty funny.
So I'm just saying, like the Koreans don't think SKT is looking so hot. Yeah. And then for the last people, IG, I think IG is still the #1 team in terms of so I'm sorry to say, like, even though G2 won, like, I don't think IG, like, the core of G2 has never beaten IG. They got 3-0'd. Caps got 3-0'd by IG. Then they got 2-0'd at this tournament together. So it's like an 8-0. Like, I know that's not how math really works, but like, G2 is the #1 team just because they won MSI, and like that's undeniable at this point. But I still think the best team in terms of like their ability to perform is either IG or like maybe one of the other top Chinese teams. But I don't want to get into that. So I think IG is gonna maybe do some soul searching, maybe not be so fucking arrogant at a tournament.
Yeah.
Probably widen their play styles a bit, but maybe not because IG's just always played that. And I think that they're going to get to Worlds. I don't think they will win this Worlds. I think another Chinese team's going to win Worlds this year. But I think they're going to do really well. And I mean, they got a lot of experience from this tournament. And I mean, they still looked insane during group stages.
Yeah, definitely.
You can never let one best of five decide the future of a team.
Yeah, for sure. All right, what about you, Miracle? What do you think about these teams moving forward?
So I agree. I still think that IG is the best team in the world, and they are the team to beat. I think they will be a very strong contender for Worlds.
Okay.
I think Europe is gonna be very, very top heavy. I don't really see any opposition to G2 at the moment. I don't think Fnatic is up to it, or Origin, or any of these teams at this level.
That's true.
Apparently this is fake.
Apparently. Oh, okay.
Good. I know it was a rumor, but I was like, Jesus.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think G2 has a lot of strengths, especially in the bot lane. I think Perks with right meta can be the most valuable AD carry in the world, because you have someone who can play reasonably well standard AD carries, and who is gonna absolutely smash on mages, because he's a former mid laner, right?
Yep.
So I think if the meta fits G2 at Worlds, they can go really, really far, even win the whole thing. But it's gonna be very meta dependent. For Korea, I think SKT still looks strong. I think Khan is still a good player, and I feel Kekama can still make him, play properly. League of Legends. And not cosplay Dyrus every game.
Why you gotta do him like
that? And a bird again. He's not even playing. No, okay, I get it.
Yeah, no one's safe. Yeah, but I think also like Killzone and Griffin can do well. But I think it would all depend on the meta, and if we keep the fast-paced playstyle, and there was an MSI, I think Korean teams are gonna be in trouble. I'm actually really excited for the next split for NA. For a change, because I have really high hopes for TSM.
Yeah,
I think TSM has a real potential to challenge Liquid for the title this year.
I mean, they did. They were close. You're right.
Game 5.
Yeah, but I think they might be much better because they have very talented young top laner. They can only improve. They obviously have Bjergsen. They have Sven, and I think they have the sort of chemistry right now that's gonna fuel them forward. And I think this might be finally the year where Bjergsen performs at Worlds and they get out of group stage.
I love the
So I
faith that
think,
you have, my friend. I'm a TSM
yeah,
fan, so I'm loving this right
I'm
now.
a huge Sven fan.
Yeah.
So I really want to see him do
There you
well.
go.
And
Yeah.
I think those are the major
Okay.
points for NA. Team Liquid and TSM. I don't think C9 is gonna do anything, honestly.
I would say the same thing, but man, every time we say something about C9 not gonna do well, they just come out the woodwork, man. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But I like the NA assessment. Sorry, Kevin. I know you're a Team Liquid fan, but I'm going for TSM.
I'm definitely a Liquid fan, but I'm happy that the NA teams look good.
Definitely.
We might win Rift Rivals.
Yeah. Okay, Style.
I think actually Rift Rivals for NA is a real possibility because how big the gap between G2 and Origin and Fnatic is. I don't really see Fnatic being that heavily favored against TSM, for example. I think this is going to be a very even matchup, even TSM favored. So it's going to be just G2 against NA.
I like it. All right, Style, give us your thoughts on the the top 4 teams.
Okay, so I guess I'll start with EU. I think Fnatic can actually do well in Rift Rivals. I think Reckless is always going to be the best AD carry in Europe. I think Nemesis is starting to look really good from his solo queue games. Like he's mechanically really good because what I was seeing, he's like rank 4 on EU now, and he's playing like some of the best League of Legends I've like seen from like a European like that isn't Caps, right? Because Caps is world class, but I think Nemesis is, I wouldn't say the same level, but maybe like a tad under him. But I think the only place, I think the places that G2 beat out Fnatic is top lane. Yeah, only top lane and mid lane. I think Broxah is better than Jankos, and I think Reckless is way better than Perks. Like I can't stress how good Reckless is on a good day. Like when he's not like tilting.
So you're saying that it could be
a good day for a lot of things.
So you're saying that Fnatic have a shot then at taking the LEC for summer?
I wouldn't say taking the LEC, but I think they'll contend it. Like I think the fact that they lost to Origin was just like them not showing up. I think it's what happened with the IGTL game, the series. But I think Fnatic versus a team like TSM is going to be like a really good series because I love TSM, and I just think it will be like if Sven doesn't hard int, I think we'll win. Apart from that, I think EU is in a decent spot with G2. G2 is playing really well. I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah. What about Team Liquid? Do you think they go up from here?
Team Liquid will always be like a good team. Like they'll always be good internationally. Like they have like a really good roster. I think one of the best, I would say. Like on paper, they've got like I think Doublelift and Core JJ after like this series will just like clean up all their mistakes. I think they won't make the same mistake twice. I know someone like Doublelift will hate to make the same mistake twice.
I don't know. He did flash a few times, so
he didn't die to Victor though. There's that.
Yeah, he needs to move his flash onto the F button. This guy, what is he, man?
I think the most interesting is the Chinese league though. I still stand by my boy Uzi because Uzi is like an insane player.
Yeah,
insane.
Yeah,
so are you saying IG? So you think IG is still the team to beat though? Going into Worlds?
Yeah, IG is definitely the team to beat. But for like other teams, like if you have I think one of the main problems with the IG lineup is their ADC, and I think we're finally in a place where ADC matters. So people like Uzi make a difference. People like Reckless make a difference.
Yeah.
I think it's not like Super where bot lane isn't just like a support lane where they're playing things like Karma bot and Morgana bot and everyone's just like supporting the mid laner. It's not like boring League of Legends like that. I think ADCs have a real impact in the game, and with all the changes, I think it's going to be really fun to watch because you won't see as much Rakan Zaya because the Rakan you saw on this patch was pre-nerf, right?
Pre-nerf, yeah.
Pre-nerf.
So he was like 6th most played support in 9.8, and he dropped to like 18th.
Yeah.
So I think that's like one of the biggest deals with Rakan. So you won't see that pick anymore. And Korea, I think I really want to see Griffin. Like I really want to see Griffin start playing well. Like they always choke at playoffs.
Yeah.
But then again, their roster is super young.
They need to not be first. That's what it is, so that they don't have to wait
the
like
first
a month.
curse.
Yeah.
Viper was like 17 when he got to finals last year, so he's like 18 now.
Oh, God. Okay.
And he's, I would say, the best ADC in Korea. Like, I would say he's even better than Teddy because he can play more champs. Like, if you look at his champion pool, he played things like Yasuo, Vladimir.
Yeah, he can play mages.
Yeah, he can play, like, all sorts of things. And I think that's one of the big things about, like, being a world-class player is your champion pool. Because if you see, like, if Perks can do well on an ADC, you can just give him Mage, you can give him Syndra, you can give him Zoe, you can give him AP Nico.
It'd be hard to ban him out.
Exactly.
So many options.
Yeah. So for me, if I was just talking about the 4 teams, I would say IG is still first, G2 is second, TL is third, and SKT is like last. I think SKT. I think Faker plays really well. I think Khan is just getting like actually abused. He's playing really bad.
Yeah.
Like, but I think their bot lane is okay. I think I've always liked Mata. Like the season where he played for Samsung White, he was actually like the best support player I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like,
I remember that.
That was
amazing.
Like that's what you want your support to be like. Yeah. His thresh, his Braum, everything was clean. And then Teddy, I think, plays like the best Ezreal I've seen, and I was disappointed that we didn't get to see more Ezreal.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that's about it.
Okay.
Oh yeah, their jungler. Jungler is Klid. If he gets Lee Sin, he's like an insane player. Cause he used to be a one-trick Lee Sin. So if he gets Lee Sin, he's good. If he gets Jarvan, he's good. But if he doesn't get those champs, then he's like really confused and he doesn't know what he's doing. So I think the statistics were like he had like 20 something games on Lee Sin. He had like another 10, 15 on Jarvan. He had like 6 or 7 on Rek'Sai, and then after that it was like 2 games of every other jungler.
Yeah, like Elise or something.
Yeah. And then you're just like, what happens after? Because Koreans don't play Karthus.
Yeah,
NA doesn't play that much Karthus.
Yeah.
Like, Karthus is like an EU pick.
Okay. All right. Well, I think those are good, things to think about heading into, I can't wait till Summer Split starts, getting into, I just want to see more League of Legends, but I guess we have a little bit of a break now for teams to reorganize, regroup, and I'm excited to see all of these regions and how it's going to play on from here. But that's going to wrap it up for our MSI discussion. What a great tournament. I mean, like I said, I think we saw things that we expected and things that we definitely did not expect. So a lot of stuff to take in and bring back to our respective regions again. So congratulations again to G2 and my EU brothers for at least a Western team won. So I can applaud you for that. We're on the same page with that, and hopefully next time it'll be an NA team. We'll see. But until the next episode, guys, remember you guys can email us at the allinpodcast lol@gmail.com if you have any questions, or you can tweet us at the allinpodcast. But until next time, guys, enjoy your climb on the Rift. try not to be too toxic. And we will see you guys on the next episode. Peace.